Hey guys, what is up? It's Andy here, back at you with another video, and today we have a super awesome set of results that's come all the way back from the States. What we did is we took some Freedom Farm soil, some Auger Soil Lux, and some Classic Craft and some Anti-Fragile, Freedom Farm's latest soil. We sampled it up, we sent it all the way to the United States to get tested at a very high-end lab, and we got there. It's Logan Labs, and we got the results the other day, and we're very excited to start sharing these results with you. We found some very interesting stuff, and I'm sure you guys are going to love it. Of course, this is I know my own levels and my depth, and this is way above my depth. You're going to see it's very sciencey. These results are complicated, but we do have an expert. Mike from Kaya Farms has been kind enough to give us a breakdown of it, some recommendations, some thoughts, and yeah, this is soil on a whole nother level, and we are very excited that you guys are here to check it out. So without further ado, let's hit it on to the analysis of the Freedom Farm Classic Craft with Mike from Kaya Farms. Hi Mike, thank you so much for taking some time to join us to go over these test results. I have prepped the guys, and they're quite excited to hear about what you found in these samples and these tests. And yeah, just I think in brief, I mean, if you want to start firing away with your interpretation of the tests.
Okay, cool. Yeah, hello everyone. Glad to be here. Very excited about getting some insight, some scientific insight on the soil in the market. So yeah, just to start off with, the soil is tested in the US. We're using Logan Labs, which is a very well-known and reliable lab that is used by many cannabis growers. So we have a standard result that we can compare and discuss with people in the industry. And yeah, the two tests you see from the same sample, and they just give a different picture. So the blue test that you have on the left, the standard test, will give you an overview of the total amount of nutrients that you find in the soil. So some of it may be locked in the organic matter and in different places, but this is the total amount, everything in there. And the red soil, the red test that you see on the right, the saturated paste, that gives you a snapshot in time of right now what is available in the plant. So how does the soil fall into solution? So if you were to, and this is how they extract it, they use distilled water and they run it through the soil and they see how many nutrients have dissolved in the water. So it's very interesting to have those two aspects, to see what is the total reserve and what's available right now, and then how to balance the two and keep them in sufficiency and balance.
Awesome.
So yeah, let's start off with the standard test. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between the two because they correlate a lot. But so the total exchange capacity 25. That's good. That's a heavy soil, you would say. It's a good nutrient level. 6.3 of pH, it's very good. So pH is on point. The organic matter at 36, that's very normal for a modified potting mix. It's very loaded in organic matter. If you were to test an actual indigenous soil, you would find it's way lower, around the 5% and below.
Wow.
The sulfur, so like I said, the total exchange capacity 25 is quite high, and that translates, you can see in the red test, the soluble salt is at 1958. So the soluble salt is basically the total amount of nutrients that is at the moment available in the plant by the plant. And 1958 is quite high, so it's definitely a loaded soil that will last you a long time. I like to see it around the 1500, which is a nice, decent soil that you can keep feeding and have good result. But you can push it quite high at 2000 and above. If the plants are healthy, they will be fine. But it is quite high, so that's good to know. So going down, yes. sulfur, 479 it's quite high, but it's good. And you can see it translates in the soil solution. It also is quite high, but very within range. And remember, sulfur in cannabis is very important for your terpenes and your flavor, etc. So you'll need it in flower. So it's good that it is there. Moving down the phosphorus, you can see the phosphorus at 3,000. That's rather high as well. We are dealing with a high soil, so we can expect high numbers. Obviously, all those progress bars that you see, they are here to give you a visual representation. Being below range or above range doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's heavier than what I would like to see. But it's still very good. I haven't added it to show dangers, more to just show the balance. And so yeah, the phosphorus is very high, and you can see when you go back to the saturated paste, it translates into an also quite a high number, although not massive. So you've got good reserve. That's good. That's always good to have in those soil that we're trying to reuse and recycle. Yeah, moving down to calcium. So that is a bit low. I'd like to see it more around the 4,000 in terms of the total. And so the reserves are not massive. So for example, as a veg soil, you're going to have to supply calcium because this is what you want. You want to set up your plant for maximum calcium uptake in veg. And so it will be fine at first, but they'll run out of it fairly quickly. And you can see in the availability in the soil solution, the calcium is actually very good. It's on level. I wouldn't mind seeing it a bit higher for beginning of veg, around the 200s, but it is very good. But and that means that as soon as you put your plant in, you'll have good results, but they will run out of calcium fairly quickly. But now the magnesium and potassium, you can see there's an invert balance. The calcium should be a lot higher. Magnesium is okay, and potassium should be a lot lower. So this is an extremely important part of the soil, is the cation balance. This is a crucial part of the soil. If this is not balanced, this is what's going to cause. It is often what causes the most issues. It's great for a cannabis soil having that much potassium because, like we say, potassium is extremely important for bulking up the plant in late flowering. So it's good to have it. But if it is so high, you're going to have to bring up that calcium to match it, because at the moment it outweighs the calcium by quite a lot. And you can see, even though, for example, the calcium looked like it was in range, or at least sufficient in terms of ppms and quantity, you can see that in the balance, if you look in the percentage, it's non-existent. I mean, the progress bar doesn't even exist, which will, so even though it's sufficient, it's not balanced. And interestingly enough, balance is more important than sufficiency. So this is something that can be improved. And you can definitely do that at home just by adding calcium in your soil, feeding it. And this is the point of the soil test, is to try and give you the tools to understand your soil better and try and tweak it better at home by having more information about it. And this is one of them. One of the things you can do is push calcium in it. You can see in the soil solution, the magnesium is quite high. The potassium is also very high, and the sodium as well. So obviously all of that can be lowered by, through a season. They will go down, and through watering as well. If you leach the soil a little bit, if you water with runoff, you will bring those numbers down as well. So it's not a red flag or anything like this, but know that they're high. It's good. You get bang for your buck. You're not buying something with nothing in it. The sodium is something I would pay close attention to, because that will definitely create osmotic stress on the plant. And this is a good way to get sodium down, is to, as I said, leach the soil or put water through it and let it run out. The high sodium will definitely create stress, but it's an easy things to get under control. And also something that might be of interest is kelp. Kelp is known to be quite high in sodium, so be careful. I see a lot of people being very heavy-handed with kelp. So just keep the sodium down by limiting your use of kelp.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that helps. And in terms of the sodium, like I said, sodium will create osmotic stress. Two numbers I haven't touched on is the chloride and the bicarbonate. Those two will also play a big role in creating osmotic stress to the plant and preventing it from reaching its full potential. And at the moment, the bicarbonates are great, but the chloride is a little elevated. Nothing bad. Again, 1 or 2 watering and you'll get those numbers down. And yeah,
guys watching this, these were samples straight out of the bag, brand new. So yeah, it's, you know, as you were saying, like 1 or 2 waterings in these could change quite a bit, and whether or not they factor that in, we don't know. But yes, it's still quite interesting nonetheless. Sorry, I'm not even asking questions. I'm just
no, it's a good
I'm
point.
just along for the ride.
Yes, and again,
so
also like you're saying, you could take sample from a different bag and you might have slight variations.
Of course, yeah.
You never know. You know, maybe they mixed their soil and there was one pocket of bone meal that was not mixed very well, and we just picked that up on the soil test. So that could be the explanation for the high phosphorus. You know, so. But in general, it gives you a very good idea nonetheless.
And this test is just probably it's heavily overkill for like one bag of testing. I think people would probably do a test on like 100 bag, like a sample from say every 100 or 200 bags, and then that would be used across like a large scale. But you know, the data is still there, which is awesome.
Yeah. And so to carry on, so yeah, the percentage, the balance of cation, like we said, is extremely important, and you can see it also on the standard test. You can see that the calcium is quite a bit lower than what we want to see it at. So yeah, definitely push calcium. Magnesium, be careful. I wouldn't add any magnesium to that. Potassium, I also wouldn't add. Potassium is probably quite high from the compost they're using. And you can see we're just going to skip on the trace element for now and go just down to the ammonium and nitrates, which could also be related to the potassium in the compost. It's very high. 388 is sky high. So it's good because plant uptake nitrogen and potassium. It's 2 of the nutrient they uptake the most. So it's good that they're in such high numbers, but just be mindful that it is quite high, and you don't necessarily want to add any more than that. Otherwise, you could run into issue like nitrate. We know that nitrate promotes elongation more than leaf production, etc. So too much nitrate will your plants, when you put them in, they're gonna explode, but they're not necessarily gonna be growing extremely healthy with strong cell walls, and you're not gonna set them up for a strong flowering, even though they look like they're skyrocketing. So that's often one of the trade-off with nitrates. They look amazing, but it doesn't set them up for disease resistance and
what kind of figure would you expect there? Or not expect?
So nitrates, that's
something you would like to see.
I'd like to see it at around the 150 to 200 in early veg. And obviously, as you go through the flowering, you taper it down, and I'd like to finish around the 20, 30, 40, somewhere there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, ammonium is 1.9. Ideally, I want to see it at 1 because it's a good indication of how cooked or how finished the soil is. When it is at 1, you know that everything has been released. It's properly cooked. 1.9, it tells you that it still has some it will still release nitrate, so that 388 is not the final number. It will increase as the soil ages, so that's also something to bear in mind. It will still have some release of nitrate over time, So it is high nitrate and it has stock as well. So it's some, but then again, nitrate is very mobile. So you do one leaching again, and you'll reduce it by a good 30-60% depending how much water you put through the soil. So it's also interesting to know, like, depending what you're planning on doing with your plants. Now if you have extremely healthy plants and you're going to transplant them into a bigger pot and they're going to veg for longer, this is great. If you have seeds that you're going to plant straight into the soil, you might want to run a few liters of water through your soil to lower those numbers, to give that start a smoother start. That seed a smoother start, or just dilute the soil with cocoa or something like this. So that's for the nitrates. And then going back to the trace elements. So I'll start with boron, iron, and manganese. We usually refer we look at the saturated paste, which just gives better information. And you can see boron is good. Iron and manganese are a little low.
Okay.
I would, if I had to choose one, I would definitely look at raising manganese. Cannabis are manganese hungry plants, especially in flowering. They some people, so to give you an idea what number I would like to see in the manganese, it's around the 0.2 0.3 ppm, and so we are at 0.1. Some growers even like to run their manganese as high as their iron, and iron is run usually quite a bit higher, I think, than 0.75 to 0.21.
All right.
So manganese is definitely something that is interesting to increase, and you will see some cool results from it in flowering.
Is there any bank for the manganese and the iron? Like, is there anything going to break down, or is that sort of?
Say again, in the.
Like, is there any sort of bank or from this standard test?
On the standard, yes. I mean, the standard, it's difficult. Those elements don't show very well in the standard, and it's key. Well, the best indication is how they translate into soil solution.
Okay, I see.
On the standard, it's a bit tricky. That's why I don't even put progress bars there, because it doesn't really give you that much.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
It is interesting, but I mean, just focus on the manganese. It makes it easier. Yeah.
Perfect. Gotcha.
And again, those elements, boron, iron, manganese, copper, zinc, we amend them with sulfate. So it's copper sulfate, manganese sulfate, and they're soluble. So it's very easy to add them either foliarly or as a soil drench. They're very easy to change. So I would add a bit of manganese. And then going back to copper and zinc, copper is also a little bit low, and zinc is on point. I could raise a bit of. You could raise the copper a little bit. The thing is, it's tricky though. It's better to have them slightly low than too high, because too high will create massive issues. And we're talking about milliliters per 1,000 liters of soil when we're amending those nutrients. So it's very easy to go overboard or to mix it wrong, it's a tricky one. Yes. The priorities would be definitely raising the calcium, and looking at balancing the cation ions in there, more than messing up with the trace elements. Although I would still have a look at them.
Brilliant.
I think it's a very good soil. It's a very loaded soil, so it will last you a long time. You can reuse it. And this is what you want. You don't want to buy one batch of soil and have to throw it away after one grow. You want to be able to reuse it, and you will be able to do that with this soil. Obviously, you'll have to add a few things.
Unfortunately, it might change between. If you are going to be growing on a very scientific level, you might have to embark on your own test and get a batch in like on the bigger scales, they'll be buying, a ton, and they'll test that ton, and that should basically be a good thing. But I think on a bag level, like these come out of 30-liter bags, I would suspect there could be quite a lot of variation, especially between two bags sitting next to each other.
I wouldn't think so, because I expect Freedom Farm to be mixing their soil quite well. So I wouldn't expect a massive difference.
No, just subtle differences.
Yeah, I think they would be pretty subtle, and maybe difference between batches. Yeah, I think Freedom Farm are pretty on point in their mixing and all of that. So
I think the point I'm trying to make is it's not like a chemical thing that you can say, like, like a can of Coke, every can's going to have this much in it and this much and this much. It is going to vary, and like one watering in, you're going to have a completely different you're going to see completely different results. So those are the things, take everything here with a pinch of salt, and you still have to do a bit of your own research. But yeah, I think that's pretty much where we're going to end off. There are some things. So we have some exciting results from the Orgasoil Lux, which is coming, and there's also the new Freedom Farm Anti-Fragile that's going to be. We're going to do a similar thing. So yeah, I'm really looking forward on getting those, going through those in the next couple of weeks. And then guys, also watching. If you want to reach out to Mike for any sort of similar tests, you can. The links will be below, and as well as, I suppose, any questions on some of the work that Mike's been doing. And yeah, from us, thank you so much for the time.
Awesome, it's a pleasure.
Awesome.